All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Best Damn Baseball Show. Today, once again, we are joined by JT, formerly of Pars List, a creator of the O's and Ones and No Hope. I always want to say New Hope. That's like this isn't Star Wars, but I've done that several episodes now in a row. Creator of No Hope. And also has just recently formed his own Substack. JT, welcome to the show. And then we
Thanks.
also have the Best Damn Sports' own Prince himself, Ram. Welcome to the show as well. Thank you both for joining me. How are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good. Nice little Sunday.
It's a good day to talk baseball as it is any other day.
It's a good day for two, as Ernie would say. JT, how are things going down there in Columbia? When do you head back to the Bay Area?
Tuesday. Tuesday I fly back. And how it is here, it's hot. It's always hot. The AC is on 24/7.
We will lose you for a couple of weeks then, I suppose. I might be able to get you to send me some voice quotes or something at some point, but travel safe when you head back to the Bay, and we will see you when you get back in 2 weeks. But anyway, first of all, we have a show to do today. Welcome, everybody, to another episode. Today, we are going to be playing a little game that we've come up with called This or That. Basically, the premise is that I will give a couple of prospects and I'll explain their rankings. But then Ram and JT will determine whether or not they're going to pick this prospect or that prospect out of the pairing that I give. So just a quick example. I'll use major leaguers. If I were to ask you who is the greatest of all time, I would say Shohei Ohtani versus Barry Bonds. And then Ram would say whether or not he's taking this player or that player. So just kind of let you know the format for today. And then I created the pairings here. And then on the screen graphic that we'll put up, you'll see two different rankings. One is for MLB Pipeline and one is for the Upside Prospect. And it says which ranking is which. But the reason we gave two rankings is because one will be more baseball focused. And in case you don't follow me there, basically, you'll have two different types of lists a lot of times. One that's like an actual real world player ranking list and one that is fantasy slanted. And that's more what the Upside Prospect ranking list will be. So you have the MLB Pipeline and the Upside Prospect rankings, with Pipeline being the actual baseball player type rankings and the Upside Prospect being your fantasy focused rankings. Did I explain that right? Well enough, Ram? I know I kind of sounded a little confusing possibly there.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's hasn't caught on there, especially, there's obviously some people who are more useful in fantasy than in real life, and the vice versa applies. There's some guys that you want on your roster because they're going to score you points, and there are others you just want on your team in real life. So, we're going to try to touch on both a little bit here because obviously there's different discussions. You might have a defensive. The glove will come up because, as JT said to us when we were talking beforehand, the glove is going to determine how much you see the field, right? So,
Exactly.
we may not be sitting there losing our minds over it, but if we, Ash mentioned just a few minutes ago when we were talking beforehand, Curtis Mead is one of those guys where maybe he could play, but if there's no glove, there's no time for him. Doesn't really matter. You're going to take that guy? Probably not, right? How long can you give him a leash?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. You gotta have the glove. You gotta get the playing time. They don't get the playing time, and ABs are not going to do anything for your fantasy team.
Yeah, I think that sometimes gets lost on fantasy players. They're like, oh, I don't care about his defense. Well, and JT, you always point that out that if his defense is terrible, he's not going to get to play, so he's not going to get you very many points.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be spectacular. I'm not digging in that deep, but it's got to be well enough to, the team can put him out there. They have to be able to play at least marginal defense. They can't just be a black hole.
Right. Otherwise, they're not gonna be able to play. So if they don't play, they don't earn you any points or categories if you're a categories player. But you should play points.
Yeah, you should play points.
Anyway, we'll segue into the first pairing that we have, and that is between Travis Bazzana and Max Clark. Bazzana was the number one pick in the MLB amateur draft last summer. On MLB Pipeline, he's ranked the number 9 prospect in baseball. On the Upside Prospect, ranked number 21, while Max Clark is ranked 5th on Pipeline and 18th on the Upside prospect. And I will transition it first to Ram. You'll lead us off. Who are you? Are you taking this prospect or that prospect in this group?
In this case, I'm gonna take Travis Bazzana, but this is a real tough one. I love this one a lot. Do you want me to get into it, or are we just gonna go back and
Yeah,
forth
go ahead.
Yeah,
give reasonings behind your pick.
I think in this case, right, and I really like this matchup because I think both of these guys have really good floors. You know, there's a lot of guys like we might talk about some other prospects that they're going to be extremely boom or bust. I think the Max Clark floor, I think the Travis floor is a solid player no matter what. I see a really solid player in both of these guys. I think that for me, I'm going with Baz because generally I've watched his power go up in college. I've watched the exit velocity look pretty solid around the time he handles the glove fine. I know that there were some slight concerns about Clark being able to have to tweak his swing to get the ball in the air more. And this is a weird one because I don't always talk about it in a way because it can't be necessarily quantified. But Travis is definitely one of those guys I feel has got great intangibles. People have talked about it. Like if you hear the interviews, they say he's got amazing makeup, amazing work ethic. So if we've got 2 5-tool players and Baz has got a 6 tool, gives it a slight edge. It's definitely not an easy decision for me here because I think, again, both of these guys have really good floors. So they're definitely guys you want to target. But I think I'm going to edge it out to Travis on this one.
All right.
Yeah, I agree there. I agree. I picked Travis as well. I didn't go as in depth as you. Their profile, their archetype, they're pretty similar type of players. I just went with one simple thing: is Max Clark has a 48% ground ball rate, and I just don't mess with it. And then he's also got the 45 graded game power. The Bazzana's 55. So to me, that was easy. You got to get it off the ground. I'm not interested if you hit it on the ground. If I had Max Clark and I could trade him for Bazzana, I would.
Yeah, well, JT, you've mentioned that many times on the show now. You are not giving guys grace when it comes to that ground ball rate. Very few guys are able to overcome that as a major player in the big league. So, appreciate you always kind of educating us on that and letting our viewers know what it's.
I don't know if it's education or I'm just stubborn.
No, but I'm with him on that. I am absolutely with him on that because it's the same thing. He's pulling a lot of ground balls. And then at best, if you can't tap into that power in game, are you going to be just a line drive guy? All right, 40 doubles a year is outstanding, but we'd rather 25 home runs. And I feel like Travis has been able to tap into the power more. The ground ball rate's better there. There's concerns about Clark being able to just hitting the ball into the ground too much. And I'm kind of with him on this one. It doesn't always look too sharp. And this is a guy who, remember, I don't know if the Tigers want to run it back, but they took Clark over Wyatt Langford and Walker Jenkins in the same draft.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, and then from a fantasy perspective, I like both of these guys' bats, but it's hard to beat a second baseman with a good bat. Usually not as deep as a position as outfield. So I think that's where I would go as well. Just giving a shout out to our viewers. Clay says, "What's up, fellas? Thank you for watching, Clay." Joe mentioned hello there, so I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the channel, like the video. That way it helps the algorithm to promote it to other viewers that may not be aware of our Best Damn Sports channel. So I appreciate you guys for watching. And then we will transition now into the next pairing. One of these guys has already made his major league debut and kind of is a polarizing prospect in a way, just because of the fact that, he's been hurt a lot in the last year and that kind of thing. So, but we will bring him up now. Jordan Lawlar on Pipeline, ranked number 10. On the Upside prospect, he's ranked number 11. While Marcelo Mayer, another one of those Boston guys, they've just producing like crazy in recent years. But he is ranked number 11 on Pipeline, and the Upside prospect has him down at 38. So this time we'll start with JT. JT, give your take on, are you buying this prospect or that prospect with this pairing?
This one was tough because I'm not really that high on either of them. I agree more with the Upside prospect. With the Lawlar, I think his ceiling is much higher than Mayer. Lawlar, he needs to get healthy. He needs to show what he is after his injury. I mean, he came up at such a young age. It's really hard to back too far off of him because the D-backs were throwing him in the majors at 20. I mean, that doesn't happen very often. And usually when it does, the guys end up being pretty special. I mean, the latest are, the Jacksons, the Churio and Holiday. So I went back and forth on this. At first it was Mayer because I thought he was the safer pick. But I think I'm switching it up to Lawlar because I think the athletic profile of his is much better than Mayer. And with Mayer, it's like, what are we looking at for a ceiling? Is it like non-roided up Dan Uggla? We're getting low 20 bombs, in the middle infield without any speed. So, and going back to Mayer's power, he only has 5 home runs versus lefties in his pro career versus 34 against righties. So does he end up struggling and then he's just a platoon bat as well without any other counting stats besides being able to hit a home run now and then? So I'm with Lawlar.
What do you got, Ram?
I'm actually going in the same exact direction there, and I'm going to double down on something that's saying that I think with Jordan Lawlar, you're buying the dip, to use that term, because I think one of the things we got to remember in fantasy perspective is that there's a lot of name value and there's a lot of hype on things, and getting a prospect at the right time is just as good as getting a prospect right. I mean, if you get a guy for free, you're killing it, even if he becomes an average player in deep leagues, right? But in more condensed leagues, if you're thinking about, if you just take back a breath and think, who are people talking about? Boston's got a lot behind them right now. Campbell's looking real hot. Roman Anthony, there's a lot of talk, right? So Mayer, just by default, gets that kind of helium behind him where they're like, oh, the Red Sox are going forward. Marcelo's going to be part of that future over there. He'll be at short. Christian's going to be at second. And I think it's harder to purchase Mayer than it would be Lawlar at this time. But if you gave me a choice between the two in fantasy and perhaps in real life too, I'm taking Lawlar because as JT pointed out, there's a difference in upside there in Lawlar. And even if you just break it down to one category, he was talking about ground ball rate for Bazzana and Clark. Lawlar's probably going to produce a lot more in the stolen base category than Mayer is. And overall, he's just faster, right? So if we're taking guys that are similarly ranked, pretty much a similar bat, Lawlar's been moving throughout the minors where he reduces his ground ball rate, puts more balls on the air, and he can run. Give me the guy that'll give me 20-20 or 25-25. Mayer's power doesn't ellipse him in a way that I think that Lawlar's going to look bad. I think this is an easy one for me, that even though they're similar in ranking, I'm taking the upside on Lawlar. I think he's going to be the better player. And Mayer may get a little bit more fanfare because of what's going on in Boston, but Lawlar's my guy in these two.
All right, that's a good take. I think it kind of depends on how we're focusing this as far as like a buying opportunity, and if you were going to try to trade for one of these in a fantasy league. I think that I'd rather go after Jordan Lawlar because I feel like the price is going to be a little better because of some of the stuff that we talked about already about how he debuted so long ago, and might be a little bit of a post hype buying opportunity in that regard. Probably not going to get too much of a discount, but still, I think the buying aspect in a fantasy league would be a cheaper buy than Mayer. Mayer is getting boosted by all the other prospects that have come up from the Red Sox. They've been really producing in recent years. So from the pure baseball perspective, I might lean Mayer just because of the track record that the organization has kind of built in recent years. So definitely an interesting one, and appreciate your guys' takes on that. We had a couple of chat comments I just wanted to bring up here. Kenny says that we've been waiting on Lawlar forever, it seems. So that kind of reinforces.
Yeah, we have been waiting on the Lawlar.
Yeah, I think that's the point there. But as JT mentioned, when did he see the majors? Age 20.
Right.
We're waiting on a guy. But, I mean, you're telling me if he gets it together at 22, I'm thinking there's another 14, 15 years to got success there. Right.
And even though that he debuted, he still had a small sample, too. So it's not like it was, this massive 2-year run or something like that.
Correct.
And then Clay mentions that Boston, although the same about Jeter Downs when they acquired him in the Mookie deal. So I think he's just kind of being contrary about our mention of the organization's track record and goodwill that they've earned through Wilyer Abreu and some of the other hitters that they've developed in recent years. And he's just kind of countering that with, hey, Jeter Downs wasn't very good, either. So That kind of goes against what we were saying as far as the track record. And then Kenny, not as long, or Peter says we've not as long as we've waited on the Martian. So getting back at him with a little Yankee smack talk there. So.
Yeah, there are some guys that it does feel like they lose that shine because there's like prospect devaluation. You kind of get prospect fatigue, I think is the term some of these guys in the industry call it. But we have to remember some of the, we're in an age where we're seeing guys debut at 22, 23, 15, 20 years ago. That was not common at all. That was really rare, right? You'd see these guys at least another year or so like that. Maybe because we had more minor league teams and levels, so they kind of put them through the ringer a little more. But development's gotten a lot different now. We're going to see a lot more guys under 23 hit the field, and there will be some adjustment periods for them. We got to give them a little patience.
Well, and I actually think that we are missing out on a little bit of development with now that they've eliminated that short season A-ball league.
Yes.
The Northwest League is the one I think of the most. As you can see, I got my Salem Kaiser Volcanoes sign and my Salem Kaiser Volcanoes hat on. They were in that Northwest League, which was a short season A-ball. I think that was a good debut spot post draft for some of your, maybe not your first round draft picks, but some of your, second through fourth guys. Those type of guys would debut in the short season A-ball type of league. And then the other type of guy that would start out there was your guys that coming over from the Dominican. A lot of those guys would go straight to short season A and not go to the complex. So I think that there's kind of a little bit of a missing middle ground as far as not having that level. So I do kind of miss that. I think it was good for development of players. But obviously the teams had to cut back a little bit of expense with, and obviously it was the right thing to do to increase salaries and living conditions and things like that. But I think that the real reason that we saw that level kind of eliminated was a cost savings move more than anything.
Yeah, but I agree with you wholeheartedly there. Where when it comes down to, I always wanted, I like more minor league baseball. It's more jobs, more opportunities, more chances for development,
and more communities to be involved.
Yeah, we talked about this playfully about like the fun names and things like that. But for me, I always think about things in terms of growing the game, and more minor league baseball is good for growing the game, right? Because if you're in a community that doesn't have necessarily a major league team, there are guys that, like David Wright, for example, grew up in Norfolk, loving the Mets because of the Norfolk Tides, which was their AAA team back in the day, right? There's AAA teams can do things for communities. It brings people together. Sometimes the only thing you got in that community is minor league baseball team, right? And so more minor league levels always looked at as a good thing. You want to give them more time because there's such a heavy lens put on everything now. They go in the MLB for, we were talking about just Lawlar for a second. He did not have a big sample size, but some people have already made up their mind on him. And that's kind of a tough one because you get a cup of coffee at age 20. What are you really going to know for sure out of this guy? Because even if he hit like 5 home runs in a week or so, that doesn't mean he's going to be good for the next 15 years. So I'm very anti like the fact that they made it smaller. I agree with you, Ash, in the sense that I'm glad that it did have to. It worked out with better living conditions, better overall treatment. They say better salaries, but I kind of miss having a few more minor league options, and so we're seeing players sped up a little bit, but may not be a good thing.
Yeah, and JT, did you have something you wanted to add to that, or?
No, not really. I'm okay with guys moving up. I don't have a problem with it. A lot of the minor leagues isn't specs. It's guys who are trying, they're just making a career. This is a job, they're 28, 29, still playing. So I'm okay with them getting paid a little more and, better quality of life for them. I'm okay with it. And then to go back to Lawlar and a small sample size, Jackson Churio didn't hit the ground running either, but the Brewers stuck with him. Lawlar didn't even get as many ABs as Churio did in like his first month. So, there's a lot to see from Lawlar, but he's young, he's worth the risk.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And transitioning now to our next group, moving on from Lawlar and Mayer, we're going to move over to a couple other guys here, Coby, Mayo, and Sebastian, Walcott. This one kind of sparked some debate when I mentioned that we were going to compare these guys in the Discord. Some people were, like, hey, these guys have a pretty big age gap and that kind of thing. But that's not something that was really considered. It was really more along the lines of where they ranked. And let's go ahead and contrast these guys based on their close proximity and ranking. Coby Mayo ranked by Pipeline at 13. The upside prospect has him at 20, whereas Sebastian Walcott, Pipeline has him at 16, and the upside prospect at number 8. This time I'll let Ram go first, kind of alternating turns here. Ram, what do you got on Mayo versus Walcott? Are you taking this prospect in Mayo or that prospect in Walcott?
This one I feel is hard. I looked at some data back and forth. I look at both these guys' profiles. I do think Coby Mayo is going to end up at first long term, and it really comes down to when I was saying about Clark and Baz that those are guys with solid floors. I could see a future where neither of these guys have a solid floor. And I'm being honest in the fact that, like, I this is just my personal opinion. It's obviously not fact, but there's a future where I could see both Coby Mayo and Sebastian Walcott not panning out to doing like flashes in the pan. In this case, because I actually consider them to be so close, I'm taking the literal upside on Walcott. I think that he might be able to do something special. I know that there is an age gap between them, and in a way that kind of, for me, gives me that where I'm thinking, all right, am I going to get another 2-3 years out of Walcott? He makes me extremely nervous to the point where I don't really have stock in him in any leagues. And I feel like Mayo is the safer choice in this case. But it comes down to prospects. If we think about failure rate and success rate, I might as well take the guy who might have a higher upside. So for me, I'm taking Walcott here.
Fair enough. What do you got, GT?
No, I'm with Ram. It was tough. I went back and forth a little bit. But I think the upside on Walcott is just too big to ignore. Mayo could be a middle of the order power bat, and he looks like he there's a good chance he will be. Will he play third? Probably not. And he's back in AAA again. He couldn't crack the roster coming out of spring. Is that a knock? Probably not. Orioles are pretty deep. They really seem to like some of the bets they carry around. Also, they haven't just fully embraced, like, here's our young crop of guys, go get them. So I think you have to go with Walcott because he has physical tools that the elite of the elite in the majors have. So whether it all comes together, who knows? Rick did a piece last year about his K rate in DSL and complex, and then guys with a K rate that high have never panned out, like, ever. So he would be the first one to ever do it. So there is risk there, but with any spec, there's a risk. And then I'm always focused toward fantasy. So if I had Mayo, could I trade him for Walcott? I couldn't. I don't think I could. Now, if I had Walcott and I like Mayo, I could probably get Mayo plus something for my Walcott. Yes. So you got to go with Walcott. You got to go for the upside here,
Yeah, I think most of us are leaning the same way, especially with Baltimore having not, given Mayo that extended run yet. So that you got to listen. A lot of times JT mentions watch what the teams are telling you. So I think in this case, the teams are telling us that to lean Walcott here. One of the things that I think is impressive about Sebastian Walcott is the fact that he's had moments of struggle where his K rate got really out of control, but then he's shown the maturity and the baseball acumen to reduce that and cut it and then take off again. So I think that's a really good indicator for how Sebastian Walcott's going to progress.
Can I
say appreciate you guys' feedback on that one. Yeah, go ahead.
Like when we go back to listen to what the team says, Walcott jumped A.
Yeah.
He never played an inning in A-ball. He's been young for his age everywhere he's gone. And the Rangers, which they do that, they're young guys. If they feel like they're at a level and they're showed they can handle it, boom, there's no waiting around. They run them on up. So Walcott's getting ran all up. He's in Double-A. He's one level behind Mayo, and he's 3 years younger. So listen to what the Rangers think.
19 in Double-A is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Is he 19 still?
Yeah,
he's 19 right now.
Yeah, 19.
Yeah. So the average age of batters in Double-A is 24.
He just turned 19 in March. So
yeah, he's asking people to go buy him beer.
Clay has to say if Mayo was the guy, he'd already be in Baltimore. That kind of feeds into what we were talking about. Listen to the teams or pay attention to what the teams are telling us. And then Kenny, Ryan Mountcastle shouldn't be good enough to block Mayo, but he apparently is. Tells me what I need to know. Still very good prospect.
It's not just Mountcastle either. They seem to love Ryan O'Hearn.
Well, and you've got Westberg as well.
Yeah, the Ryan O'Hearn thing, as JT pointed out, is actually one that is one of those that makes me, I'm not gonna say worried, but as to speak to what the team is doing, I'm like, if Mayo's as good as advertised, then he should be getting time over both of those gentlemen. He should be the full-time guy. So, granted, I will say that just might mean that they think he needs more time. Not that he's not the future. Not to argue with you there, Clay. But it doesn't mean that they don't think he's the guy. They just might think he needs a little more seasoning. I mean, there are some prospect rankings that give him a 70 out of 80 for power. Like a 70 power will play. And if you're able to bat above 250, something like that, you're going to find a way to, even if it's first baseman, you'll let him mash. So there's still, I don't think the luster is gone off him yet. I just think they want to wait a little more because they might be nervous he can't handle it full time yet.
Yeah, and they're competing. They're trying to win a World Series. They're trying to win a division, and they're comfortable with what Mountcastle and O'Hearn are giving them. Then, and Westberg has played really well. It's his. He took it. Westberg.
Well, and I tell you, one of the things that really surprised me, and I'm I'm kind of going on a tangent here just because you brought him up, JT, is Ryan O'Hearn. That was a guy that was left for dead and released by Kansas City. I mean, he was awful in Kansas City.
He was.
And the Orioles pick him up off the scrap heap, and he's been serviceable. He's not a great player, but he's been serviceable for them. So to me, that says something about their ability to develop bats. I mean, if you look at it back in 2023, he had an 801 OPS when his first year there. His WRC pluses in 23 were 118, and in 24 119. So to me, that's impressive to see. Baltimore was able to kind of basically turn his career around when it was left for dead.
Yeah, it's hard to. They're a contending team with a really cheap guy producing at 20% higher than the median major league player. It's hard for them to give that up. Like you said, like Ram said, there's something. The glove, there's some seasoning, maybe the chase issues, the K rate they're worried about when he's against major league pitchers every day. They just want him to, keep getting better.
And then Clay follows up with they also gave time for Mountcastle at AAA a few years ago as well. So they have been known to kind of take their time with guys in the upper levels of the minor leagues, whereas we like to see them. We like to see those guys get promoted because we want to see them on the big stage, but. Baltimore obviously likes to give those guys their time and wait until they feel they're 100% ready before they make the splurge basically. Clay also mentions they also have to consider the clubhouse. Not sure what kind of personality he is, how that fits. I don't really know. I don't really know anything about his personality.
He's talking about O'Hearn there because he followed up saying he's the leader in the clubhouse.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah. So that's true. I mean, clubhouse guys, of course, that's a big thing.
O'Hearn didn't debut until 2018, so he was not on the Kansas City World Series team. I believe that was 2016. Peter, can you tell us what year the Royals won the World Series?
And we are moving on. That was 2015, and we're moving on. We are
2015.
We are not talking about any of that. We can move on to anything else. I'll talk about Dollander. I'll talk about anything. Let's not talk about the Royals and who they beat in the World Series.
I don't know who they even played. JT, do you know who the Royals played in the World Series in 2015?
Wasn't the Reds.
I like how he avoids that subject.
Good answer. This is why JT's my guy, man. This is that's why we can work together. And funny enough, we're 3 for 3 on agreeing with each other. So at some point now I feel like I have to go the opposite just to create debate. Because we just got a podcast of us agreeing with each other right now.
Yeah. We got 2 left. We might disagree.
Yep. Two more comparisons and decisions to go. Next up is Colt Emerson and Leo Vries. Colt Emerson ranked by MLB Pipeline at 19. The upside prospect has him at 26, whereas Vries is number 17 on MLB Pipeline, and the upside prospect has Vries at number 14. As hype as Luke gets about Leo Vries, I'm actually surprised he's at 14 and not top 10 for his list. So what do you guys think? I don't remember who went first last time. I believe it was Ram. So we'll go with you, JT. What do you think between these two?
Well, this one was the easiest one for me. I went with Vries. Look, the kid was in the kid had 116 WRC plus at 17 and 8. He's an uber athlete. You go with the upside. Colt Emerson, he has 1 home run against lefties in his pro career. So Vries has everything ahead of him. He's just going to get better. You want that guy. And it goes back to what I said about Walcott and Mayo. You couldn't trade Colt Emerson for Vries. And if you had Vries, you can get Colt Emerson plus probably another Colt Emerson. I don't care what those rankings say. There's no world where they are right next to each other, in my opinion. Maybe I'm selling Colt Emerson short, but the ground ball's high. Can't hit lefties for power, so womp womp.
That's what Kenny said. Anyway, Ram, go ahead. Are you taking this prospect with Emerson or that prospect with Vries?
So I think Emerson's the safe pick here, which means I'm not going with him. I love the upside on Leo Vries. First off, that's an 80 grade name. I mean, Leo Dallas Vries is like one of those guys where you're like, yep, that's baseball. That's going to be a guy. But no, I think, and JT touched on the stat. I mean, this guy was crushing it at 17. That's kind of terrifying to the point where I'm like, well, this is. It's not a generational level talent necessarily. I don't want to overuse that word, but man, could this guy be a franchise cornerstone? I see it. I have a lot of faith in it. And I think he also stays at shortstop. I think Emerson might move off to third base where the bat will even play lesser. I think part of the appeal with Emerson is if he sticks it out at shortstop. I think Vries is going to stick it out at shortstop. I think he's going to be a franchise cornerstone. The Padres have really done a good job developing and picking these guys out too. I agree. I think this is the easy one here. I might also be selling Emerson short because I've talked about this with you guys off air, and now I mentioned it here. I'm very nervous about Seattle prospects because I am a big Teoscar Hernandez guy, and ever since his conversation, amongst some others, about the fact that batter's eye and Safeco is making it harder for some of these guys to hit, and we've seen guys like Mitch Garver go over there, veteran guys, not just young guys, who were hitting and then just can't hit over there in the home ballparks. Teoscar's splits were really noticeable. I get a little nervous because that doesn't mean, the skill set might be there, but not everybody can hit if half their games are in Seattle. And so I'm very tentative about picking up Seattle prospects or buying into them. Even J-Rod hasn't looked the same. So for me, this is a clear Vries.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. In my opinion, Vries, what he's doing might be the most impressive of any prospect in the sport of baseball right now. Right now, he is 18 years old in A+. I mean, and he's, obviously, A+ just started on Friday. So he's only played 2 games, but he's 3 for 8. So off to a really good start with a walk. So in 2 games, he's had a couple of really good games at A+, and just 18 years old. I think that's extremely impressive. He doesn't turn 19 until October. So he's still a fairly young 18 as well. And Kenny mentioned
do we see him in Double-A at 18 this year? If he
I think so. I think around the All-Star break, you'll see him 100%. In Double-A. We know that San Diego has been known to push prospects at times. Let me take this banner off so I can put up a chat comment here.
He should be going to prom and homecoming. He's going to be.
Yeah. If he was a stateside, a U.S. high school kid, he'd be going to prom in later this month. So it is April. I forgot it was April already.
The man's got priorities in order. He's forgoed prom to hit home runs.
Yeah, exactly. Remind me, I'm going to get on a tangent again because of your comment that you guys just made. But Kenny says that Leo will be a stud in 2029. Personally, I think he's in the majors next year. I think this guy is in the major leagues in 2026.
That would mean him stalling out for 2 seasons. So
I think maybe the conservative estimate, I think, is 2027, right?
Yeah.
Conservative, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think he's for sure going to be in the big leagues next year.
And I don't think there's any problem if they take their time. The Padres are aggressive though, so I can't disagree with you. If you're saying late 2026, I mean, it's true. They've been known to be aggressive with their guys. Clearly he's developing. So unless something unforeseen happens, yeah, I mean, this could easily be a September call-up in 2026, if not more, if he pushes the envelope. So I'm with you. I don't think it's 2029.
Yeah.
No offense, Kenny.
And then I got to give Stephen Ulrich a shout out here. He said 100% to Vries. Pods will be aggressive. Obviously, I already agreed with that and mentioned it earlier. But I wanted to give Stephen a shout out here. He just recently started his Substack as well. Stephen is aces when it comes to breaking down pitchers. So I kind of think of like JT as the guy that I go to for hitters primarily, and Stephen does a really good job breaking down pitchers. So please check out Stephen's Substack as well. He's doing a great job. And then he mentioned earlier, great stuff or good stuff, fellas. So thank you for that shout out, Stephen.
Thank you,
appreciate
Stephen.
that. And speaking of Substacks, here at the Best Damn Sports media network, basically, we have started our own Substack. I'll put this on here as well. It's just $24 a year right now through Wednesday. So just a few more days that you can take advantage of that deal. The link we have, I'll put it in below in the comments of this channel. And then also I have it available in the link in our Discord to get that discounted rate, just $30 a year normally. And right now it's $24 while we're doing our lead up to our debut of content coming out starting on Thursday. So a lot to look forward to in that regard. It won't just be baseball talk. It'll be from around the world of sports and just a commentary on our opinions regarding different happenings in the sports world. Like I said, just $24 a year. So it's not like it's some monthly fee that's going to be hitting your account all the time. So in my opinion, it's a great value for that, but obviously I'm biased. Let's see. We had another comment come up. Did you have something you want to add?
Speaking of opinions here, it looks like I've got some slander in the chat here. Kenny says, Ram is wrong, but it's okay. We can't all be DJ Lunchbox. A couple things I'd like to attack here, Kenny. First off, we all agreed with each other. So it feels a little bit unfair that you're targeting me specifically. I don't know if there's some sore feelings from the other night or something like that, but we all kind of agreed about that time frame. So you could say all of us are wrong. But you're right. You know, we all can't be DJ Lunchbox, luckily. So that's good. I'll leave you to do that.
Well, and then you know what's interesting so far. Oh, and Kenny just laughs at your remarks. But what's interesting is I don't think any of us have disagreed on any of these prospects so far. So maybe I need to do a little bit better job putting two guys together. I thought putting two guys close in ranking together would create some disagreement, but so far I think we've agreed on every one of these.
No, but the rankings are close for a reason. I think what it is that we kind of look at prospects through a similar scope. You know, like JT and I were just talking about the fact that we'll take upside over safe, right? So we might favor these guys based on upside alone. And we both also feel the same way about that ground ball rate. So you are asking two guys kind of look at certain things that, you know, you look at the same scope as us. You talk to us about it. You said you go to JT and you go to Steven. So we come, I guess we got to go deeper. You know, we got to take some prospects that are deeper dives and higher risk.
Yeah, exactly. And then moving right along, we also have another Mariner prospect in our this or that series here. And that would be this prospect, Lazaro Montes on MLB Pipeline, ranked number 40. And on the upside prospect, he's ranked number 43. Whereas Dalton Rushing is that prospect. On Pipeline, he's number 29. And on the upside prospect, number 31. So this is probably the biggest gap in rankings that we've had yet. So I'm very interested in getting your guys' takes here. Are you guys buying this prospect in Lazaro Montes or that prospect in Dalton Rushing? Ram, lead us off.
I wanted JT to lead off because I know he's got graphics prepped and everything for this one, and I feel like he should. You know, this is if he's gonna outshine me, let him go first. You know, so I don't look as bad. Let's let him.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to outshine you. I don't know if we're going to disagree. This one was the hardest one for me. This is, I think, out of all we're talking about the safer picks and the floors, I think Dalton Rushing has that highest floor. Montes looks like he's just a beast. You know, he's a beast. He's another young kid. Now, you said you're worried about, you know, the Seattle Park a bit. I don't know how worried I am about Montes in that part. I'd be more worried about him just not being a good hitter as we think he is because he's been tearing up lower levels. You know, he has a really high walk rate, but he's a huge, huge man. Like I brought up earlier, like the young guys are probably trying to just paint the corners, nip the zone, you know, so he might not be getting that much to hit, but when he has, he's demolished it. So Dalton Rushing, man, you know, he really looks good, like really solid. Like he's looked solid at every level. He hasn't slowed down. he's probably going to be really solid. Is he going to be in some all-star games? I don't know. Will he play every day? He looks like a guy that is a really safe pick, that has some upside. He could play every day. Maybe he gets an all-star game or two. You never know what happens once they get up. But he looks extremely solid. They say he's, average behind the plate. His caught stealing, it was like a 28%, which is pretty much right around MLB average. So if he can play some catcher and is athletic enough to play a couple other positions, he has zero problem with splits. I mean, his OPS is literally like 1 point different between left and right. He's really solid. But I'm going with Montes, and I'll show you why. Like, if you want to put up his first few games from promotion. Now, I like to go when kids get promoted. I say kids, young guys, when they get promoted. I always take the first 20, 25 at bats. And then for a pitcher, I usually take like the first 4 or 5 starts, and then I start seeing what they're doing, because every level is different. They got to settle in. They're playing with new guys. They're a new park. They're a new city, and it's a higher level of competition. Now, Montes, that is not anything sexy. You're not getting excited about that. In fact, you're probably bummed. You're like, damn, Montes is going to struggle. Well, once the calendar flipped to August and he's been there a few weeks, then he does this. This is a 19-year-old kid in high A where the average batter's age is 22 and a half years old. And he's out there just crushing it. So I think the upside for Montes is higher than rushing, but it's real tough because I think rushing is going to be a really good player. I just think Montes might have the ability to be a little more than just an everyday player, which sounds ridiculous because I expect being an everyday major leaguer is like that's what he's trying to be. That's his dream, But I went with Montes on this.
Yeah, I struggled with this one because I'm a little bit of a homer when it comes to Dalton rushing. Being a University of Louisville product, I have to be a fan and root for Dalton rushing, even if he's a Dodger. My concerns with him are playing time, because this is a guy that's in AA or AAA, sorry, and just been hitting the cover off the ball every stop he's been at. But Will Smith just signed a long-term extension last summer. So what opportunities are going to be at catcher? Freddie Freeman is 36, but even if he plays 2 more years, I mean, do we really want to wait 3 to see Dalton rushing get an everyday chance? I don't think so. I know he's played a little bit of left field as well. I don't know what they're going to do here. Like, to me, I would say maybe they should trade him for something, but what pieces do the Dodgers need?
So yeah, that's a tough one there, because I don't know how much we want to factor the playing time into it, because I do agree with you 100% that I don't know if I see the route for Dalton rushing to be there every day right now. And they've been good at moving off their prospects for something else. For this one, I guess it's finally the time for JT and I disagree, because I do take rushing here, but it's not necessarily because I'm down on Montes. I do think that if there's somebody, the way that his batted ball profile looks, the patience that he has in terms of his eye, there's a guy that could still perform in Seattle. It'll probably be Laz Montes. Like, that power is at elite level, and I do think he can kind of just mash no matter where he goes, and he probably will. For one, just in general, I feel like elite catching prospects are harder to come by than some of the other positions. A couple of years ago, I was a big Adley Rutschman guy, and I'm still one of those people that I know there's debates with Contreras and things like that. I think Adley Rutschman is that #1 dynasty fantasy catcher. I'm big on that. I'm a big Adley guy. And so for me here, rushing is one of those can't miss catching prospects. Like, if you look at the names that come up, yes, like Teal's good. Obviously, Bazzana is a guy that comes into conversations, but he may end up at first base. I think rushing is one of those guys that you can say, all right, he's going to be your cornerstone catcher. I don't know what the Dodgers are going to do because, again, Will Smith has been signed for a long time, so they don't need him, right? But at this point, I mean, would I trade Will Smith? I don't know what the Dodgers are going to do. If rushing ends up with a team with playing time, I am taking rushing. If they get rid of Will Smith or he gets traded somewhere where he can be the #1 catcher, I take that, because for me, it's a rare situation where I'm enamored with a catching prospect like that. And I think catcher is such a hard position to get real production out of, because you've got a lot of guys that even if they're productive are playing half the time just because of the wear and tear on the body. And rushing is a guy that can be out there every day, just like Adley. And I think in terms of fantasy, that's a big deal. And I have the fear, of course, I'm biased in this way, of course, against Seattle. I said it. Do I think Montes can overcome it? Absolutely. But for me, in this case, I would edge it out to Dalton rushing. I think he's the real deal. And he's somebody that down the line, he could still be helping you out at catcher. Laz might be sitting there at first and hoping that you're playing him when he's not playing in Seattle.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I mentioned the Louisville factor with rushing. But also Will Smith, the starting catcher who they just signed an extension to, is also a Louisville product, and rushing followed Will Smith at Louisville as the starting catcher. So it's kind of an unusual thing. And then Bobby Miller, if he ever gets back on the hill for LA, he was a Louisville product
right,
as well.
And the guy before rushing was number 1 pick Henry Davis, and he hasn't panned out, but he came from the same place, and he was looked at.
Oh, that's right.
Prospect.
Rushing followed Henry Davis.
Henry Davis
followed Will Smith.
Yeah, so you had Henry Davis, Will Smith, and Dalton Rushing all coming out of the same organization as catchers. Granted, Henry Davis hasn't put it together yet, but in terms of prospect value, that way his prospect rank was high. He went as the number 1 pick. That's no mistake. So
well, it's been odd because he crushes AAA, but he just hasn't. He hasn't anything in a major.
There's a lot of talk, and this is not something that I don't want to spread as a gossip, but like it's one of those things where people say that the makeup, that his attitude has been given some problems for certain places. There's been a lot of like open commentary about maybe Henry Davis isn't the guy that has the mental and attitude makeup to be a star in the majors, and I don't know if that's true. I'm not going to go ahead and parrot something I haven't seen myself in person, and it's not like Bazzana is putting it out there type of thing. But I will say, in credence to what I was saying earlier on it, that there are 6 tools. When you think about the 5 physical tools and you think about the 6th tool being the intangibles, if you're missing that, not only can it be a problem, but it can be a detriment. So if those things that they talk about, like maybe Henry Davis has all the talent in the world, but if the head's not on straight, we've seen that with a lot of really talented guys in the past that may not work out for him. I don't know if I'm out on him, but when we talk about the way the team looks at it, like you guys were saying, Andy Rodriguez is out there catching, and Henry Davis isn't necessarily looked at like a big deal for the rest of this year. So we'll see what happens, but I feel like the Pirates are starting to lose their love with Henry Davis too.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think probably he's going to be one of those guys that gets moved on, and another organization tries to give him a second chance in a fresh start here at some point this summer. Will Smith, it's interesting because when he was in college, he was teammates with Brendan McKay. And if you had told me when they were in college that Brendan McKay would be out of the league in no time and Will Smith would be the guy signing a big dollar extension, I would not have believed you, because, man, I thought Brendan McKay was as close to a lock for having a major league career as any player I'd seen in college. A huge bat at first as a first baseman, and then the Friday starter, which if you follow college baseball, the Friday starter is the guy. So I just I'm still baffled that Brendan McKay wasn't. I mean, granted, it's been injuries.
Yeah,
in college, I thought he was
just
much of
injuries, because they were developing him as a 2-way guy originally with the Rays,
and he
right?
came up and debuted pretty quickly in Tampa in like 2019, I want to say.
Yeah, I remember the name and the fanfare on him, and I mean, I think we always get excited over 2-way players, right? Or the idea that a guy could do it. I mean, Ohtani being the most elite example, but anyone who could do it now, like hell, we've got people talking about the switch pitcher that just debuted, and he looked pretty good just the other night.
I can never pronounce his name. I'm not even going to try it. I don't know how to say his last name.
I think you could do Durangelo, right? You could do Durangelo or the switch pitcher. There's only one
the switch pitcher.
Right?
The fun pitcher, as Steven in the Discord calls him. The fun guy. And then Kenny mentioned
we have a guy promoted. The Red Sox.
Go ahead.
The Red Sox are calling up Hunter Dobbins from AAA.
Oh, nice.
So the Red Sox are calling up Hunter Dobbins from AAA.
That'll be a good debut.
Yeah. He was an 0-1 guy. Yeah, they've done some things with him. He had a terrible fastball, and it looks like it's.
Is he starting today?
So at least his cutter. It doesn't say. It just says his debut. Don't they have a doubleheader today? due
Yeah,
to
they
the
do have the
game.
doubleheader.
Yeah, because they rained out
yesterday.
yesterday.
They rained out yesterday.
Yeah. He's the 27th man today, and he's
There you
wearing
go.
number 73. Isn't that exciting? So
I see that Kenny says that he's subscribed to the Substack, and I just want to make it clear to anybody that if my antagonizing of you is the motivation to subscribe to the Substack, that is a free service I provide alongside the Substack at any time. You can message me on Discord, and I will make fun of you. I will make fun of your trade evaluations at any time. I really don't sleep that much, so it is kind of a 24-hour service. Please feel free to reach out if you need to be yelled at a little bit, and that'll get you to subscribe to the Substack. Consider it a free service anytime. I'm happy to do it. And now I'm scared because Kenny said that I'm right, and unless he gets traded to Seattle, which is hilarious, and I'm going to give him that. He'll take Rushing over Montes unless Rushing gets traded to Seattle.
I do think that Montes has the higher ceiling, even though I got to be biased and stick with my guy Rushing. So
no, he definitely does have the higher ceiling because that's we've talked about this the other day, Yumi, Ash, and actually Kenny, when we're talking about the game now, right? Suppressing power, creating power, right? And Laz has elite power, and as JT pointed out, he adjusted pretty fast to where he was. He could be a real threat. This is the middle of not even just middle order, like your number 4 guy out there where you're terrified to face him because anything could be a home run. And so it's one of those things where I understand completely. I'm not out on Laz Montes, but let's see, we got another guest on the pod here too.
Gus, say hi. My wife's out helping my mom with something today, so normally the dogs stick pretty close to her. I don't know where the other one is. Harvey must stay upstairs, but Gus decided to come take a visit and make his debut on the Best Damn Sports YouTube channel. So
we're pet friendly over here.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, sorry, I didn't even hear a thing you said, Ram, because I got distracted with the dog.
No, just Kenny was having fun with me, saying that he'll take Rushing over Montes unless Rushing gets traded to Seattle. And I got a good laugh out of that because I'm like, I see your point. But he did throw in a comment there about DH. I know what he means in the idea that there are some people saying Rushing will just be a full-time DH for the Dodgers. That's possible too. I think his value is in being the catcher and keeping that catcher eligibility. I think they'll find playing time for him. I do think he's a great prospect. But as it comes to Laz, I mean, he'll probably make me look stupid. I mean, this is probably a guy who could have 40 home runs. Easy. But this is one of those rare cases that I might not take the upside. But you're right. Montes does have the higher upside. I agree with you.
Yeah. Can I say something to wrap that up? I mean, this is all hypothetical. And so I'm going to go with a hypothetical situation is if for some reason these trades were all happening, you had all these guys and these were questions you had to answer yourself. I would not take Walcott, Vries, and Montes, all 3 of them. I think I would take Rushing and drop Montes. I wouldn't go with just three straight upside guys. I would go with what I thought would be the highest floor in those because Emerson I'm not real high on now, especially after digging into him more. And then Mayo. I would rather have Rushing over those guys. You don't want to go pure upside all the time, especially if you just don't want to. Especially if for some reason you could trade Montes and get Rushing plus something, which I don't think you could, but if that was a possibility. But I wouldn't take all 3 upside kids. I would take DeVries, Walcott, and then Rushing.
That's a good point, JT. And then I just wanted to break in. Joe mentioned that Ovechkin just passed Gretzky. If you don't follow hockey, you may not get what he's saying there, but Ovechkin has scored now more goals than any player in NHL history, passing the great one, Wayne Gretzky. That was a record in sports that I never thought would be broken. So a lot of times we throw that phrase around saying a record will not ever be broken. But Ovechkin overcoming Wayne Gretzky's goal record is actually pretty amazing. Congratulations to him and to all the hockey fans that got to live through it and see it. So that's pretty cool. Well, that's an idea for a show probably at some point, is to talk about records that we don't believe will ever be broken. So Thank you for passing that along that it happened, Joe. And I think that gives me an idea for another show at some point that we need to do.
Well, you can start and end that show with a bunch of Jerry Rice records.
Yeah, Cy Young. That's never getting broken.
Wait, you don't think we're gonna see another? Any complete game shutout records, anything like that? I don't even know.
I think we'd have to qualify it that they have to be records from like, I don't know, the last 20 years. Will we see another 300 game winner?
No.
Who's the closest right now?
I have no idea, to be honest.
It's probably Verlander or Scherzer or the guys playing.
And Verlander's got like a very unique career in the fact that he's still out there. And I think he's maybe like still like, let me just take a quick look now because I'm curious. Because I don't think he's that close to 300.
Stephen Ulrich says Verlander is the closest.
262.
Right,
yeah, he has 200.
He's not getting there.
Right. So if he's not getting there, and this is a guy that I've watched win MVP as a pitcher, my gut says no, that we may not see another 300 game winner because at least for now, based on the fact that longevity for the pitchers doesn't.
I feel like JT's watching Prince or something, Purple Rain or something over there.
Yeah, you've got a purple filter on there, JT.
I didn't do anything. What is that?
I didn't do it either. I don't know.
I got hit with a bunch of lean. I have no idea what's going on here.
Yeah, I don't either.
JT swimming through lean to make his prospect picks. All right, I respect it.
I'm slowing down.
But yeah, I get your point that if Verlander's not going to make it, I'm not sure who will. The thing of it is, you got to stay healthy to get to 300. And very few pitchers avoid that Tommy John anymore. Steven mentions that JT ate Wonka's candy.
Wonka's candy.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going on there.
I have no idea either. I was looking at the wins, and all of a sudden you guys asked me what was going on, and I saw it. So we're a very, very sophisticated broadcast here.
Yeah, I think it's a good look for you. Next time I'll put on a color filter too. I can't do purple because it's yours, so.
Yeah. There was a time in the 90s when they said nobody would get to 300 again either, so.
It's true, but I think it's also the idea, Ash, that when you think of the injuries these days as well, the pitching is max effort now, and we've got more injuries to the arm. These arms take a year off the career, and also the nature of the pitcher win stat is also
nobody gets to 6 innings hardly anymore either. So
right, because so not only do we have more injuries in terms of these guys are blowing out their arms because they're going max effort, but the idea of the win is not as valued as it used to be. Because the idea, you might be looking more for a quality start than you are looking at the win, right? Or I know QA3 is a thing that's getting a lot of love too, like quality appearance, right?
Yeah.
So those might be more valued. And guys don't talk about, you don't even hear the conversation about 20-game winner anymore. 15 years ago, 20-game winner was the thing, right? 20-game winners are Cy Young. And then
was Ian Anderson the last one to get to 20 wins? He got to 20 wins, didn't he? Or was it? I know it was a Braves pitcher. I can't remember if it was Ian Anderson or if it was Kyle Wright. It was one of the two that got hurt.
Oh, Teoscar Hernandez went yard.
That's my boy.
You guys are talking about wins. I'm looking at what's going on today.
What's going on today, then?
Teoscar took Christopher Sanchez deep.
Yeah, Kyle Wright in 2022 got to 21 wins.
Well, didn't Strider win 20?
Man, I don't know.
He might have.
Well, and it makes. Go ahead.
No, I'm going to take a look, but I'm pretty sure Spencer won 20 because I remember sitting there and outside of me calling him Quadzilla all the time. I think he had a 20-game win season.
Yeah, 2023 he was 20-5, which makes sense because shoot, and I lost his name, the manager for Snicker. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. I'm a Braves fan. I couldn't think of Snicker, but I kept wanting to call him Snyder or something. I don't know why, but Snicker's kind of old school. He plays his regular guys every day. Very rarely do you see one of the regular everyday guys take a day off. They have a lot of guys that'll play 160, 161 games a year. And I kind of don't like it because it's made signing depth pieces difficult for them. And so like their bench bats have been really fringe major league players a lot the last few years. And Snicker lets his pitchers pitch deeper into games too. So it doesn't surprise me that they've had a couple of guys there in the last few years get to 20.
And on JT's note about things that are happening today in the world of purple, I will mention that Dollander's making his debut today. And I know that I can catch you guys' opinions on it because I know there's some fear about it. I don't think we need to believe in this big air molecule conspiracy thing here. You know, somebody's got to conquer Coors Field. Somebody's got to do it.
Oh, that's why he's purple. We got to talk about the Rockies.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You know,
yeah,
so you know, I thought if you're on my side here, that's why you're purple. I appreciate it. But no, I'm Dollander's, I think, debuting at Coors Field. I am super interested to see what that start looks like. I know there's jitters and things like that, so it's not the end all be all, but I'd love to just watch what happens out there. I think if there's a guy that can create an actual solid fantasy pitching profile out of Colorado, it could be Chase Dollander. And I'd like to see it start today.
And off the cuff, you know, JT mentioned his boy Hunter Dobbins as his Ozone Ones guy. We know JT's opinions on Rockies pitchers. So if we were going this prospect or that prospect, would it be Dobbins or Dollander, JT?
Well, it's got to be Dollander. I mean, Dollander's stuff is Dobbins isn't in the same tier as Dollander.
I had to put you on the spot because of your comments in previous episodes about Rockies pitchers. So
no, but
apologies for me.
He's fair about it because it's just we got to be scared. We've talked about this. Like, do you acquire a Chase Dollander in fantasy knowing that he's a Rockies prospect? Unless he falls to your lap, probably not, right? But
probably not.
That doesn't mean that I don't believe in him and think he would be somebody. I'm just not trading for the guy because even if he shows he's going to be successful, I don't know how long-term. We don't really have Rockies pitching fantasy success in our history to go off of, you know? So,
yeah. I mean,
you might have seen me just throw a fit. Sorry, JT. Go ahead.
No, I said the latest was Herman in half a season where he was in the All-Star game. What was that, 2021?
Mm-hmm.
And then he was hurt. And he's the last that put up fantasy relevant numbers. And that's
he was pretty good in his his first outing this year.
Yeah, well, he walked like 6 yesterday, so.
Oh, I didn't see his line yesterday.
But he also was on the road, and then yesterday he was at home, so there you go.
You might have seen me throw a fit a minute ago. That's because before the show, Ram and I were talking about the fact that Sandy Alcantara went on the paternity leave for the Marlins because he was originally scheduled to pitch today. And so I was like, yes, the Braves might have a better chance of getting their second win of the season, not having to face Sandy. But then I refresh my screen here, and the Braves and Marlins game is rained out today. So,
yeah, they want to make sure you get a healthy dose of Sandy.
That's fair. You know, Sandy Alcantara is your guy, Ash. I know you roster him in a few leagues. I think you should be happy.
Actually, have a lot of shares of Sandy. So
yeah, you know, Kenny, by the way, says that JT switching to the Mets with the grimace filter. By the way,
I didn't even think about that. Peter, where are you at?
One.
I can't believe Peter didn't think of it.
I've been supporting Ram for like the last 20 minutes.
I thought it was like a low-hanging fruit thing. I was like,
I got you.
Anyway, tell us what you think about the this or that series. What are some other subjects could we hit with the this or that in future episodes? In the comments, let us know what you think about it and other ideas for this or that. I think it was a fun little process to go through, and I think we could use this or that for a lot of different topics, not just comparing to prospects. So let us know in the comments. Stephen Ulrich says, I have whip concerns with Dollander. Command is still not all the way there. Stuff is good enough to mitigate it for the most part. FA is very legit. Oh, fastball. I was like, what is FA? I was thinking free agent. I got totally confused. I have a hard time with the pitch abbreviations like that. So sometimes I struggle with that. But he's cautiously optimistic with Dollander. So
I'll take that. I'll take cautiously optimistic. I like that.
Yeah, I actually dropped him in a league 2 years ago, so I kind of am feeling very
Dropped
foolish
him?
right now.
You
I
dropped
dropped
him.
him. Yep, I
Was it like
dropped him.
a league of 6 teams?
No, it was a bigger league than I should have. I just let the Colorado thing get in my head, and I dropped him. I don't even
Gee.
remember who I picked up at that time.
What about Gabriel Hughes? There's another one.
He doesn't throw hard enough. Isn't he a pretty soft tosser?
I don't know, dude. I don't pay much attention to.
Steven, let us know
I
in
mean,
the comments.
he was a first round pick as well, wasn't he? So I mean,
Out of
I'm
Gonzaga.
not
He's a
paying up
Gonzaga
ever for a
Bulldog.
Rocky spec. Yeah, the only one I've paid any attention to is Carson Palmquist and Jace Kaminska.
Yeah,
and then that Herrera that they got from Milwaukee wasn't even one of theirs to begin with.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're just about wrapping up. I want to thank everybody for watching. Make sure you hit the like button on this video. It helps the algorithm. So people that didn't watch it live might see it come across their feed. Gus says hello again. And then make sure you hit subscribe on the channel so that way we can keep track of how many subscribers we got and boost our numbers up and that kind of thing. I would love to see us get to 100 subscribers here in the next few weeks. We have been increasing with each episode, so I'd love to see that. Check out our Discord. It's totally free. The link is in the bio for the channel. Join our Discord and getting in on the BS with me, JT, and Ram on a pretty regular basis. Would love to see more people join that and engage our community. But with all that said, I'll let you guys give your final takes of the night, and then we'll move away and let everybody have the rest of their Sunday. Ram, what do you got for your final take of the day?
Nothing snarky this time. I just want to say thank everybody for the support. Happy to have you all around the Discord and anyone who's subscribing to the Substack. We're very grateful for that. If there's something you want to see, like Ash said, I want to echo that. Let us know because we're pretty much down to do just about anything. We've got a lot of different guys willing to help out. I myself will probably be posting articles towards things like UFC on the Substack coming forward as for next week's pay-per-view. So let's have some fun together. Let's make it a community. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much.
JT, what do you got for us?
Have a good Sunday.
NFL draft coming up here in a couple of weeks. We might have to do some NFL coverage here in the lead up. JT, who do you want your Niners to take?
Man, don't put me on the spot. I don't even pay attention.
I don't either. I don't even watch the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, right now, I'm full baseball, I'm full specs, and then you got basketball playoffs coming up. So I'm a big hoop guy as well. But once my fantasy playoffs are over, I go full circle into 100% 24/7 baseball. So, and my team's the Blazers. So
I'm a Blazers guy too. Oh, I don't have my Blazers hat down here. It's upstairs.
It's tough. It's young guys. It's tough watching.
Since we traded Lillard, I have not paid any attention, to be honest. So
I paid attention, but that's for another show. Maybe we could talk hoop one day.
We do have, the NBA playoffs right around the corner, so that might have to be a topic of discussion here pretty soon. So,
yeah, Jokic is amazing. He should have already won the MVP the year Embiid won it. Just to give it to someone else is kind of BS. Embiid's never around. He's always hurt. Jokic is incredible. Jokic,
I think
if he doesn't win this year, it's just ridiculous.
Shea's got a chance this year, an honest chance.
Yeah,
I think
dude, no.
yes,
no.
He's got an honest chance.
Dude, a chance. Look what Jokic is doing. He's like top 5 in like 5 or 6 categories. It's never
I'm not
happened
disagreeing
before.
with you about Jokic deserving it. I'm just saying that like he's got it. If Embiid could win it on half a leg, then there's a chance that voter fatigue sets in again. We just saw this in the NFL, where, in my opinion, a more statistically successful quarterback in Lamar lost an MVP to Josh Allen because of voter fatigue. So.
Well, now transitioning, I think that JT looks like a Laker fan.
Oh, no, fuck that. I am not a Laker fan. Never. There's no way.
It could have been Baltimore Ravens, too. We got
like
a
minute and a half.
Much respect for Coby and what Coby and Shaq did there. And Coby, I watched many games live at the Rose Garden Memorial Coliseum. And the whole Coby stopper, Ruben Patterson, getting a 3 splashed in his eye to win the game. I've seen all of it. It was heard.
I think in the last minute and a half or so, we've discovered that the hoop night should be a thing. We'll have to talk hoop here soon. here on the Best Damn Sports YouTube channel. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Appreciate you guys. Leave your comments below, letting us know what other this or that topics you'd like to see us cover. Good night, everybody, and thank you.
What other colors I should be in?
Yeah.